It's time to be woke. Take off your shades. It helps see through the smoke. Cause the wicked hide behind the cloak. And if you stay in the mist, you gon' be soaked. So listen up, cause this hair of the dog. What's real, what ain't? Is this the fog or smog? Cause there's a difference when you breathe it in. So don't let the corporate media take you for a spin. This that morning show, they put you in the know. So I hope that you ready, cause all we do is go, go, go. Yeah, come get your info, you gon' be like, whoa. Hair of the dog, we bout that, ayy. We in the song, we out here, yeah. Spitting the facts.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Hair of the Dog. I'm Andy Kennedy. It is Friday morning. You made it. Congratulations. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. We have a lot to talk about, including what some people are considering the beginning of our extinction. And I know that I like to be lighthearted and typically the glass half full guy, but it's kind of difficult today when a story has come out that shockingly is not being covered by mainstream media about the potential collapse of the jet stream and the Gulf Stream. And if that happens, then I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We're in big trouble. And that doesn't give us much time. So we're going to have to, as a group, as a unit on the left, try to get people's asses in gear, right? We no longer have a choice, right? The incrementalism that we had the ability to enjoy for the last 4 or 5 decades is now gone. We are at a point where it's survive or don't. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about some more general macro things that we can do as a society. But today we're going to concentrate a lot on what we can do personally within our communities to at least try to stem the tide of climate change. Because quite honestly, if we're not going to get any help from the elitist class and the governments of the world, we're screwed, and we got to try something. So, you know, it depends. It's for our survival. On that happy note, I guess it's a good time to introduce my lovely and talented co-host, Miss Carrie Barber. Good morning, Carrie. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Andy. Oh, buck up, little camper.
I just fucking depressed myself.
You did. And I was thinking that, okay, so have hope. Everybody who's tuning in this morning, have hope. And Andy, you remind me of my attitude going into the last show on Wednesday, where I was really down on people. And it was our audience here and their response to the information that we were presenting that restored my faith in humanity. So hang on, Andy. I am confident that by the end of this broadcast, you will feel a little bit better about where we are. So,
oh shit. Excuse me.
Just hold on. Okay, so Andy's right. We're pretty much screwed if, right? I feel like the Lorax now, you know, if somebody cares enough, and I am confident that we will find at least a couple of people who care enough to do something. Before we get started in this, though, I don't want to absolve the corporations and our politicians of their responsibility. Obviously, if they treated this like we did World War II and made it a serious issue, there'd be nothing left for us to do but just pitch in and help out, right? But they're not. Absolutely. And here's the reason they're not. A couple of reasons, really. Number one, for generations, we have not been sending our best into political office. There was this whole push, and I don't know if you were familiar with it. Some of you are a little older.
Fucking understatement of the year.
So no, it was called the fifth best, and this was an actual strategy, a policy. So typically, we would send the best of the best to Congress, to advisory roles, all of these sorts of things. But decades ago, we decided that we were going to kill government, drown it in a bathtub, make it smaller by sending what was known as our fifth best. This is not your top of the class or the second or the third or the fourth. We sent the fifth. And that has been the attitude going in forever. And part of it started under Kennedy and all of these, where we as a population decided, oh, we want our pretty people. We want our pretty people that look good, but maybe don't have the best policy ideas and all of these things. We sent them in, and we're still doing it. We are absolutely still doing it. So part of the onus is on us, right? Uninformed voters tuning out, not taking it seriously as your civic role. So we're not without fault in part of this as well. And then what happened is those fifth best people decided that they were going to make sure that they could get dug in, make it an evergreen job, stay in politics forever, and whittle away our ability to actually join the civic process. So today, I'm going to show you how to not only take back control of your climate change future, but actually use your own civic leaders to do so. And I know some of you are going up. No, it's true. It's true. And it's far easier than you might think.
Yeah, and we can understand why people would think that way, right? Especially in our neck of the political woods, right? Because, you know, this is the country that voted for a president that's only admirable quality was starring in a movie with a monkey, and the monkey was the smartest one in the film.
Yeah, Bonzo. We should have elected Bonzo. We might be in a better position right now. So yeah. Okay, so I love this handle, and I want to read your comment because yeah, you can take this both ways. So this is Whipple Dingle Weedle Puffin. Good morning. They said, it's occurred to me that the nature of life is to be born and die, and for that, perhaps that's true collectively as well. So, okay, so yeah, you could look at it as one aspect of it. Everybody you know, absolutely everybody you know, at some point is going to die. Does that mean you lay down and do it today? Or can you do something that is productive, meaningful, gives you self-fulfillment and helps someone else, and maybe, just maybe, allows us to survive? And one thing I like to remind people of, throughout history, the Black Plague, all of these things that have happened, these horrific moments in society where we had collapse, either economically or through other means, it always focused on the ruling class and how horrific this was, and all these people died out. Well, we still survived. Some of us still survived because we were working together, right? Like in my family, we tell the story about the potato famine, which, by the way, if you're not familiar with what happened in Ireland, there was no potato famine anywhere else but in Ireland. That was economic genocide for the Irish people because they wanted to move people out of that area. Well, there was this small little convent that survived. How did they survive? They were eating microgreens, and then they were showing the local villages how to do it too. So here was an example, and this is kind of what we're going to talk about today, an example of a small community that banded together to collaborate, help each other, and they survived. They survived because they worked together. So some of these examples I'm going to give you, and I know a lot of you live in the city. I didn't forget about you. There are some really practical examples here that I think maybe you want to consider. And as we go through this, I know that what I'm about to give you may seem monumental and just too big for you, but we're also going to go through how to organize locally. And it's all I'm asking you to do is consider some of these solutions that are already in place. Maybe reach out to the people who are doing that, ask for some guidance. I'll show you some resources where you can learn how to organize. And I just want you to be the first one on the dance floor. That's it. I guarantee you, if you get out on the dance floor, somebody else is going to join you in just a moment. And that's how we do it, right? So we can either hold our breath and wait for Congress to actually fucking do something while we die, or it's up to you. It's up to you to lead it. And once again, I am not absolving corporations and anyone else of their responsibility and culpability in this. I am full on board with guillotines all around. So let me make that clear. Yeah, so, all right. So the first one I want to talk about is what's already happening in cities around the United States. Like Andy said, this is stuff that is not getting covered by corporate media. Why? Corporate media is bought and paid for by the companies who are still trying to do this shit to us, right? They haven't changed. They don't want to change how they operate, what they do. So of course, they're not going to talk about this stuff. So it's a little bit buried and hard to find. One that I want to talk about first, and those of you who've seen the show before have heard me mention this. I'm in Albuquerque. I'm in New Mexico, one of the poorest states in the Union, and Albuquerque is not a wealthy city. But what happened? Albuquerque decided to issue $100 vouchers to all of the citizens here. And that $100 was to help you buy a low flush toilet. So for those of you who aren't aware, New Mexico's been under a mega drought, not just a drought, but a mega drought for almost 8 years. And when you flush your toilet in the United States, you're using 2 to 3 gallons of water. That's a lot. So what they did was they issued $100 vouchers to anyone who wanted one to go and buy a low flush toilet. If you haven't priced a low flush toilet, it's about $80, $80, $90. So that voucher helped you buy a brand new toilet. And if, Optimism, you live in ABQ and you never heard of this? Oh, well, we need to talk. Those vouchers are still available, by the way. And no, this was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, this was issued. So those vouchers, go get it. So a low flush toilet actually uses about a gallon of water. And what happened is they had people take advantage of this program, install toilets. If you've never installed a toilet, it's super simple. There's 2 bolts, and then you take your old toilet out and some water and stuff, and replace the new one.
Don't forget the gasket.
Right, the wax ring. It looks like a jelly ring.
If you're going to give people a how-to, Carrie, and you don't mention the gasket, you're going to get wet feet.
That's true. That is so true. So watch YouTube about how to replace your toilet. But as a consequence of this particular program, water usage in the city went down about 40%. 40% Optimism. Did you know that? Come on now. Go get your voucher, Optimism. So that was one of the programs that we did here. But we're not the only ones, right? Because this is happening everywhere. So I went out and looked, and I included a link, and this is to realpaper.com. They did a blog about this, about what's going on in different cities that you may not be aware of. And one of the cities that was, of course, top on the list is Portland, Oregon. They're always trying to do something as a collective society to make things a little bit better. So they actually have a sustainable city government program. And this is a group of citizens who sit around and think about viable solutions to make the city's operations and all of their transportation greener. So is this not something that you could propose at your county board level, right? So all of you who are watching in the US, I can't speak to our international folks, good morning, good afternoon. We all have county governments, right? These are your neighbors, people who are elected to your local county. Go to a meeting or now watch it on Zoom. But you can attend this meeting and you can sign up to speak and you can propose this sustainable city government program and then volunteer to get on it. It's like once a month that these people meet and they talk about how to make city operations, county operations greener. And you can look at what the Sustainable City Government Program in Portland has already done. Can you adopt some of these things? This is how simple it is to get this started. Your counselors who sit at the county level, they've all been elected. They're local elected officials. They want to do this. So one of the programs I had proposed at my village office when I was in Illinois, Illinois right now is trying to replace their entire grid with community solar farms. It's such a cool project. So what they're doing is they're finding a little bit of land, like half an acre that's available. They're renting it from the owner and putting up solar panels. Solar panels now are super efficient. And what they've done is they took all of these solar panels, rewired the grid, provide electricity to that neighboring community as much as they can, and then sell the rest back to the state. So what happens at a local township village level is they are getting money paid back to them from the solar company. Residents are getting low cost or free electric for their homes, and that company is actually making a small profit by selling back to the state. And they are rebuilding the entire grid this way. So this is a way for private enterprise, local government, and citizens to all benefit. And if you look at the map in Illinois, they've got little areas here, here, here. They're slowly rebuilding the entire electrical grid for the state. So we saw what happened in Texas. You think Texas might benefit from a program like that? Texas has far more sun per day than Illinois does. So why wouldn't they? Is this something that you could do? And it was something that I proposed for my city, my local township, because we had this park area that had been used as a quarry, and that company moved out. So now we had this space. It was 3 acres. I'm like, let's just take a berm and put the solar in there, and then you can get revenue back as a township for other improvements that we need here, roads and businesses. Is that something that you can do? I guarantee you that there are local solar companies in your state who are looking for these kinds of opportunities. Is that something that you can do and then benefit from? Another one, Honolulu, Hawaii. Honolulu, it's beautiful. Well, it wasn't. It wasn't always, because they had vehicle exhaust as a major air pollutant. So what did they do? They didn't wait for Congress to set limits. They set limits themselves. And this is in Honolulu, not all of Hawaii, Honolulu. What they decided was they are going to do a citywide plan to reduce air pollution as a mandate by 2035. So they are doing this right now, and including their naval fleet, which will be completely renewable energy sourced by 2045. This is the city doing this, not the state, the city. So once again, that's you collaborating with the people who are sitting in your city government, your representative. These are your neighbors. Or maybe if you decide to run for office, this is you. So if Honolulu can do it, why not you? They're a big tourist place, right? Limiting air pollution from vehicle emissions, that would hurt their tourism. No, it doesn't. It does exactly the opposite. So they have become a shining example of people not waiting, taking care of themselves, their environment, and making sure that anybody who decides to come to Honolulu is going to follow this and be respectful of what they have mandated. I think that's kind of cool. So among these cities now, here's one that surprised me. Washington, D.C. We don't think of Washington, D.C. as kind of a bastion of climate change leadership, but I'm not talking about Congress here. I'm talking about leaders in D.C. So this is Mayor Bauman and others who are part of the D.C. structure. They got together with their community leaders there, and they passed a law that mandates green building practices. Why is that important? Well, if you saw our three-part series 2 weeks ago, and I did include a link on that, you would know that 40% of all of our energy usage here, 40% nationwide, goes to heat and cool our homes and buildings. That's huge. That's huge. So if we just do some little retrofitting, we're talking about more insulation in our homes, retrofitting our office buildings, things like this with more R value. This is the insulation. Then we reduce the energy needed to heat and cool homes, and that also goes to saving our energy and little things like water recapture in a green building. That's huge. It's absolutely huge. DC's doing it. It's a not to quote who was it, Dick Cheney or Biden? It's a big fucking deal. So that's DC. I think that is that's amazing.
Yes,
Eric
absolutely.
Gray. Yeah, yeah. Eric Gray is saying every city in Florida needs to learn from Honolulu. Absolutely, Eric, because Florida is one of those states where the majority of your population lives on the coast, and guess what you're about to lose? That's going to be a problem. And hey, Stephanie is joining us again from her sweltering mail truck. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for delivering the mail. We love you, and please drive safely. So, yeah. So, like I said, this is just an introductory, but there are a couple other things here that. Okay, so as I was telling Andy, I don't want to get into too much of the granola hippie stuff, like drum circles, but I will say this: we can learn from bits and pieces of what other communities are doing, right? So I'm not asking you to quit your job and run off into the woods and join a drum circle. What I'm asking you to do is take these next examples and sit with it a little bit and see if there aren't pieces of this that you can bring back to your community, whether you live in a rural area, suburban, or in a city structure. There's something for everybody, absolutely everybody. So one of the links that I included in this was something called Global Eco Village. This example is an entire network of global eco villages from all around the world, right? So these are small communities, most of them are pretty small, who have banded together at a local level to work on sustainability and resources in their areas. So I'm not suggesting that what's going on in India is going to be appropriate for somebody in Cleveland. What I am suggesting is there are eco villages in the United States right now that you may not be familiar with. And this, the link that I posted, this is ecovillage.org. I love this site because they have resources, a library, and then a way for you to actually engage with some of these folks and ask questions. So when I brought up the example of Albuquerque, that would be exactly something that you could take to your township or your city. That same thing. Well, in the Global Eco Village Network, some of the resources that they are suggesting you absolutely can do, from rooftop gardens, just on your apartment building, to your balconies. All of these things are part of the resources, and they show you not only how to implement the project, but how to work with your local city government and change ordinances and make sure that you can get these things done legally. Because the last thing you want, is to, from the interview where Ryan was talking about people being kicked off their land, they were being kicked off their land because they didn't know they needed a permit to live in an RV or a camper on their land. So what these resources show you is what kind of hurdles exist right now and how to get not necessarily around them, but work with them or remove them as needed. so that you can work with your community to get this sort of thing together, right? Is this making sense, or have I gone too far off the reservation here?
No, you're good. You still got a little rope.
Right. So, so for those of you who don't know, the reason why I'm trying to make sure that I'm, not too crunchy granola is because my life has turned into the old TV show Green Acres. I'm a city kid. I'm a city kid, and I have never in my life been camping. I am now part of the boondocking community, working on a local eco village. I know nothing about any of this stuff, nothing, and I've had to learn it as I went. And so some of these resources, I wouldn't give it to you if I didn't think that they were useful. So if somebody like me who I didn't even know where Brussels sprouts came from. And now
they come from Belgium.
Right, because they're Brussels. Right. So that is me. And I'm having to go through this. I'm getting like the fire hose of education on this. But
you're doing fine, Carrie. Don't worry about. Listen, what we need to do is introduce ideas, right? And at this point, I think we need to take the stance that we'll take this full plate of spaghetti noodles of ideas, and one by one throw them against the wall and see how these work, right? Because it doesn't hurt to share ideas. The ideas might not be viable or workable or even sustainable, but it's something we need to do. We're at that point where we have to talk about everything, right? So think of yourself as Tom Hanks on the raft, and the audience as Wilson the volleyball, and you can still reach them. Okay, so you're good.
Okay, so hobo. Okay, so hobo. I have to address this. You talked about tiresome New Agers. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about New Age crystals or anything like that. I'm talking about how to get something to grow in the dirt. It's not as easy as you think it is if you don't know, right? So like I would challenge anybody, go out to whatever it is, a median, the highway, if you live in an apartment, try to get something to grow. It's
right. Just ask Matt Damon.
Right, exactly. So we take for granted that you can just go to a grocery store and get something. What if you can't? What if the supply chain breaks down? Yet again, we saw it last year. What are you going to do? And this is where we're talking about the World War II victory gardens, right? So maybe I grow peppers and tomatoes and my neighbor grows onions and something else. That's community. And that's what we're talking about. So yeah, to me, I was resisting this granola crunchy drum circle thing for the longest time, but now I have a different perspective because my supply chain relies on my community, not necessarily what you're doing in Cleveland and Orlando. It's right here. So how do I work with people? How do I become engaged? And I guess the easiest way for me to describe it is, okay, we always have that thing about zombie apocalypse. Choose your team, right? We are choosing our teams right now. And if you are not already thinking about these sorts of things and choosing your zombie apocalypse team, you're going to be on the outside of that gate coming up here in the next 4 or 5 years. And I literally mean that. Andy just talked about it at the top of the show. If this jet stream thing comes to fruition and it fails, we're fucked. So get your team together.
Completely.
What we're talking about
completely. Right now. And we don't have any technology that will fix it. The only thing we can do is mitigate the things that we're doing to the environment and hope that it's enough. Right? That's it. That's all we got. It's not like we can take all the box fans in North America and put them on the West Coast and turn them on. Right? We're not going to recreate the jet stream. So this is it's here and now.
Derek says, embrace that granola. Thank you, Derek. I appreciate that. And then Human Love Solidarity included a link here, and I love that. Please, please share your resources. It's guerrillagardening.org. Yes, love it. That is a beautiful resources. And Stephanie says there's power in growing your own food. Not just power, but a sense of it's weird. It's a little bit of Zen, I guess, peaceful kind of accomplishment that you grew this. So yeah, like I said,
Well,
as a city kid, I'm like, oh, this is cool.
well, exactly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take a lot, right? Like, I mean, growing your own garden is not so much about the cost of doing it financially. Seeds don't cost a lot, right? And you can get seeds from the food that you're eating and grow your own and use your own seeds. But let's say you take a community block, like a street block in the middle of a city, right? If one person on that block has a big enough backyard to put in a garden, right? You can share the work for it throughout the entire community. You can, to weed it and cultivate them and prepare the soil and plant the seeds and water them and then weed it and do all of that stuff as a group. Because if you have 10 families that are all creating this garden, then you have 10 groups that can all work on it, right? So you're doing a tenth of the work to create this garden, and that's not a lot. And the end result is you don't have to go buy vegetables at the grocery store. You're feeding you'll make tons of vegetables. You'll have so many vegetables. You'll be giving away to other communities, and it instills a sense of community back in your neighborhood, right? What we've lost by the tribalistic political environment that we live in now, right? There's so many benefits from these kinds of projects where people are working together, right? Because if you are in contact with your neighbors on a daily basis or twice a week or once a week or whatever it is, right? You're communicating now. You're not just a unit within this community that when you get home from work, you go in, you lock your doors, and you plop on the TV and watch Rachel Maddow every night, right? You're involved in your community. Everything's better, right? But you're also having conversations like, gee, I'm really in some medical debt right now. And then your neighbor who may have identified as a Republican says, wow, me too. Now you've made a connection with those people. Now you've made a connection with your neighbor, right? On a basic human level. And you start to see people as human beings instead of a group of people that voted for Trump or voted for Biden, right? Because that's what's going to get us back. That's what's going to get us back into a societal structure again that will allow us to communicate with one another, that will allow us to take on the corporate interests and the elites in society and take the country and the planet back. Because we run out of time.
Absolutely. So our favorite person, Nadia, who was late again. Gotta catch up because she good morning, Nadia. Yeah, she's our late arrival, and we love you anyway. She mentioned the jet stream, and yeah, we opened with the jet stream, Nadia. So absolutely. And then so this was really great. Oh, Shauna's opinions. Thank you for joining us. You're new here, so we really appreciate you offering this. Shauna says, where we rent won't allow gardens, and we have been growing in buckets and flower pots for the last 2 years. It's been a lot of trial and error, but it works. That's exactly what we're talking about, right? If an obstacle presents itself, you find a way around it. And I got to tell you, when here, on our little farm here, or baby eco village, the entire motto is figure it the fuck out, right? We don't know what we're doing. Every day there's a new crisis, a new obstacle, whether it's regulatory from the county, or it's something that has happened here, the motto is we're going to figure it the fuck out. And we do. It may not necessarily be the best way, but we do. So this is an example of flower pots and buckets. Yes, absolutely. So I really appreciate that. And there's one other example that I thought was really interesting. So it takes the eco village concept and brings it into an urban area. And this is something called an intentional community. And there's actually one here in Albuquerque. There's one on the southwest side of Albuquerque. So Optimism, I don't know if you know about this one. It's an intentional community. And what this is either an apartment building or a vacant piece of land that people have purchased with the intention of a planned community. And this is usually townhomes or duplexes or something like this, almost like when you were in college or some other area where you had like a dormitory type of situation where there are common areas, but everybody's got private spaces too in the sheltered areas. Plus they have community gardens, and they have intentionally planned the space to be a small, inclusive, sustainable community. So these are happening in apartment buildings. They're happening in, like I said, vacant areas with new construction. They're happening in small little areas where maybe there are a couple houses and then they add some more and do some retrofitting. So an intentional community design, I'm going to point to the people who live in cities and urban areas. This may be a good model for you to pull out some resources. So maybe you're not into the communal kind of living that they are proposing, but some of the solutions that they have identified and their resources would work in an urban setting. And what I loved about this is I posted the link to the Foundation for Intentional Community, and that's ic.org, I as in igloo, C as in Charlie.org. They've got resources. And by the way, if you want to chuck it and leave New York or Chicago or whatever, they classify it ads, where if you want to join one of these communities, you can see who's got space, right? And a lot of people will go there for a time. Like they have family villages where maybe you go and you raise your kids, or they have, some of the more seasoned over 55 communities, same thing. So go ahead and take a look at their resources. All of them are free. They have free online courses. They've got classified ads. All of this is available to you. And all I'm saying is go in with an open mind, see what you can find. And maybe there's a class there that you just take a few minutes and go through it. So the overarching thesis of this entire program is stop waiting for someone to save you, because it's not going to happen. You are your own hero, and you need to step up. It's scary, and we don't know where to start, but I've given you 3 powerful examples of people who were just like you, who took that first step. And they will show you how to take the first step that is appropriate and relevant to you. Not necessarily a cookie cutter of what they're doing, but they are there to help. So please, maybe explore some of these resources. This is a way to start, because as Andy mentioned, and we keep seeing over and over and over again, I was reading an article last night about how the Earth's crust is moving upwards as the ice glaciers are melting. All of these shifts have an effect on us. We are so little and so fragile that we cannot ignore it. If mainstream media is going to ignore it, corporate media is going to ignore it, our governments are ignoring it, we cannot. So here are some resources. And then again, if you've got some, please put it into the chat. So Gary, you're where Andy started. Gary is talking about the problem is there isn't a new continent to go to escape tyranny. No, Gary, that's a fantasy. What we're saying is it starts with you. It starts with you where you're at. There is no place you can go. This is like a Republican idea of Bell Island, where they're going to create a little utopia where the poors can't be. No, we're saying it starts with you. You take the first step right now where you live and you create that environment community that you think is ideal. So yeah,
Exactly,
that's it.
exactly. And rich people are not going to be saved by their penis rockets.
By the way, for a mere 1995, you can get a replica of that. I'm not going to tell you what to do with it.
Yeah,
but,
and if you click the button on the back. um, but yeah, Gary, I just wanted to share with you. I just got this great idea for the people of Albuquerque. Okay. So if you haven't done so yet, go out and get your voucher for the low flush toilet, right? Go out, get it, get the low flush toilet, take it to your house, install it in your bathroom, take the old toilet outside, put dirt in the back of it, and grow vegetables.
There you go. Excellent. I love it. I love it. Oh yeah. So I love the conversation going in the chat. And I think a lot of you are really starting to get it. That light is going off. You're saying, yeah, for thousands of years we lived off the land and then all of a sudden we stopped. Yeah, okay. Yes. Yes. So let's take this technology that we have now and put it to use in some of the old ways, right? Seth, Gary Seth is really having a hard time today. So you can't even walk an unleashed dog. Here's my pushback on it. If I saw you walking an unleashed dog and I've got my dog on a leash and your dog comes after my dog, I'm beating your ass, Gary. That's irresponsible. So no, don't put your dog out without a leash. Be responsible, right? To be fair, I think that most toddlers should be on a leash too. So
and Republicans. Oh, sorry, that was my outside voice.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so can we get to my show and tell now, Andy?
All right, we're ready.
I think we have a little bit of time.
Yeah, we have enough time.
Once again, I'm city kid. I have lived in nothing but cities all around the world. I know nothing about any of this, but I've had to learn it fast. And I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to get it just a little bit. But I've got so much more to go, and I'm so fortunate to have many resources. I have 15 pueblos near me with indigenous communities who are helping us. I have farmers as neighbors who are helping me. And I know that people are laughing at the city kid, but they're also very generous and nice to give some pointers and helping us literally figure it the fuck out. So here's what's going on. And I did post a link to the 3-part series that we did with Veterans Off Grid. Veterans Off Grid is my neighbor up in near Taos that is in Carson, New Mexico. They are doing some phenomenal programs up there teaching veterans how to become reacclimated into society and learn how to harness sustainable building techniques that can be used anywhere in the country. So these are low cost, sustainable because they're using thermal dynamics for buildings that are very cheap to build, but are also cost efficient to heat and cool, right? So we took one of these techniques called compressed earth block. I am literally using the dirt. When I leave here, I'm going to go out to my little trench, dig the dirt, sift the dirt, and what we do is we take this dirt, add in some pieces to make it sustainable and stabilized, and we use a press. Andy, do you have the picture of the press?
I do, strangely enough.
Yeah, there it is. So this is the press. It's a manual press. And what's so funny is the manual says it takes 10 people to run this. No, it don't. It's one middle-aged blind woman and a 20-year-old kid. We're actually using this press. We put in the materials. I pull down the lever, and then Devin pulls down that big handle. And Devin's so funny. Devin's like 5'2". So he's literally hanging off the top of that arm, and we compress the earth and we make a brick. We make a brick. Now, what happens is the code here to build a house, you have to have a brick that has a PSI, pressure per square inch, capacity of 300. Those are your red bricks and things like that, 300. When I take that brick off, freshly minted, I am at 2.5 thousand PSI. And when that brick dries, we gotta let it dry for 30 days, it's above 4.5 or 5,000. So what that means is these bricks, to be used for a house, literally I've taken my dirt, turned it into bricks, and this house will withstand an F4 hurricane, an F4 tornado. It will be super cheap to heat and cool. Yeah, and it's fire resistant and all of these things. So Andy, do you have the picture of the brick so people can see it?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so here's where reality set in, right? Whenever you read a blog about people who are doing their own homesteading, they always make it sound like it's easy. Like, oh, it built this. I'm going to tell you, this is not easy. It's not easy. But at the end of this process, we intend to build sustainable buildings, right? So there's a lot of labor and effort in this. But once we're done, we're going to have building materials, not just for us, but for a whole range of people and projects. So at the beginning, nobody gives you the formula. So you can see we have our failed bricks where we were developing this. It took us 2 weeks to find the right mix. So we added, since I have high clay content, we had to add lime. And then we added Portland cement for stability. So it's 10% Portland. So so now we have our formula. So just so you get a sense, because that picture really doesn't do it justice, I have a brick. And these bad boys are heavy. This is my brick. I don't know, can you see it?
Actually, you're going to have to, I think you're going to have to hold it back to about where you are, because your green screen is covering it up.
Yeah, the green screen is covering it.
Oh, there you go. I can see it now. Okay.
There, see it? This is huge and it's heavy. So let me see if I can try to get you to see the side of it. There. That's how thick this brick is. This is a huge brick. And I will say, I've lost a lot of weight and gotten a lot stronger doing this project, but so it's gonna, that's one of like, I don't know, 15,000 bricks that I'm gonna make. But this is just one example. And again, I included the link to what this project is, and if you want to follow along, we will provide more information. But this is to say that all of these things are available to you. And if for some reason your local ordinance prohibits this, like I know people who are very big on backyard chickens, you can go and get those ordinances changed so that you can raise ducks and chickens and goats in your backyard in a suburban or urban community, right? So
what about lions and tigers and bears?
You have to be in Ohio. In Ohio, you can buy any of those. Anything under 20 pounds is available for sale in Ohio. So yes, you can. Literally.
Oh my.
Right, exactly. So, all right. So one of the questions that we have gotten locally, because everybody's nutty about them, is our baby goats. So part of the ordinance here is you cannot have an exterior shed if you don't have a house unless you have livestock. So our choice was either get goats or chickens. So we got goats. And what that did for me at a local ordinance is now I can have a farmhand and I can have a shed and all of these things that were prohibited to me because of the local ordinance. So we figured it the fuck out, and we got goats. And so because of that, now we've got Devin here, and everything's legal, and we cannot be fined for what we're doing. So this is yet another way to find a workaround. So I did include a little short video of our goats. So please enjoy this video of Butterscotch and Rocky Road.
I love the open air bazaar spot that you have built for the goats. With the blanket and the opening and stuff. It's kind of, I think it's and I love that the training method with jumping up on the old wire spools and I think that's fabulous. I think that's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, we decided, okay, they're Nigerian dwarf goats, so they had to have a colorful tent area, and that's how they keep cool in the hot sun. So they love it.
Right.
And then Devin he's got little goat treats. And what's so funny is Rocky Road is so food motivated that she will do anything for a treat. But Butterscotch, which you're not supposed to pick your favorites among your kids, Butterscotch is my favorite. She's got such an attitude that she's like, nope, not doing it. So yeah, and I've never been around goats before, ever. And it's hilarious because I didn't realize what sound they make. So whenever you walk out the door, you come around the corner, now we have our own hype section. They're a cheering squad because they both go, yay! it's hilarious, but been a lot of fun. So but thank you everyone in the chat. I am watching all of these comments and the conversations that you're having with each other and sharing information and resources. It's amazing. You guys are just phenomenal stuff I hadn't even thought of, didn't know about. You guys are sharing it with each other. So I hope that you will share this particular broadcast with other people that you know, and make sure that I believe on Fred Hampton Leftist, you can see the comments from the live program. So make sure that you bookmark all of these resources, and let's get it done one step at a time. Like I said, you may be the first person on the dance floor, but that's all it takes. Take that first step, get people together, and there are so many organizing tools now online that you can just put something out there, and maybe you only get one person to join your initial conversation, but I guarantee you it will grow. It will grow because there are so many people who are looking for resources, options, and want to do this sort of thing. And it is so desperately needed right now. So thank you, everyone. You guys have been phenomenal. So.
Right. And if you're thinking about starting a project, or like for yourself or for your neighborhood or whatever, right, but what you've heard about doesn't work for you or your neighborhood, right? The idea, the concept of us sharing is to hopefully expect that somebody else that has heard of something that you haven't will share that with you. That makes total sense for your own situation or your neighborhood situation, right? That's the whole idea about sharing these ideas, where we can find something that works. And when we talk about, I forget which one of our viewers brought up um, the planters to grow because the gardens were forbidden. And oh my God, what a horrible concept for a neighborhood. Like, what the hell is that? But anyways, my wife and I got the opportunity last weekend to go visit my mother for the first time in over a year because of the pandemic, right? And so there'd been a number of changes in her yard, one of which was she had taken one of those big 40-gallon barrels, cut it in half, and she filled both of them with the enriched topsoil, and she has a tomato plant in each one. And when we arrived at the house and we walked in her kitchen, her counter was half filled with ripe tomatoes, right, from 2 plants. So this is absolutely a sustainable thing for neighborhoods, right? And so these are the things that we need to discuss, right? We have to talk about these things. It's vital now for our survival.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agreed. So before we get out of here and let you have your Friday back, Fred Hampton Leftist is making a push to get to 10,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. So we are so privileged to be here and part of this amazing network. So please help us get to 10,000. We are so close, so close. So make sure that you share this with friends or other people that you know online in organizing communities. You know what, Andy and I are the mind. Send it to the MAGA folks too. We love them. We want them as part of the conversation because this is part of our community too. So yeah, let's get to 10,000. It is super easy. We can do it. We can do it. By this time next week, we should be at 10,000. So help us get there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, Andy, I need to go get to work making more bricks. So final thoughts, and you want to take us out?
Yeah, we're overtime, obviously, because we got a bit of a late start and we're coming up on the hour. So there's a bunch of other things we're going to share, but I think originally we're going to talk more of macro environmental things that we can do as in terms of counties and states and stuff like that. So I think that's going to have to go on for another show, maybe next week, but we'll sit down and we'll figure that out. But again, Carrie, thank you so much for your diligence in your investigative journalism and this amazing story that you've put together. I am always in awe of your talents. And for our audience, we so much appreciate you coming out and watching us in the morning. I know the morning time for our show, we've always had been audience challenge because of the timing, and because this is an East Coast centric time to start a show, that we really don't give our West Coast audience a time to see it live. But we do appreciate you coming in and watching with us live. We hope you enjoyed the show. We hope you learned something. And please follow the Fred Hampton Leftist channel on YouTube and Twitter and Twitch, Rockfin. We're doing some amazing group. It's a great group to be associated with. And if you're on our YouTube channel, again, our push hashtag FHL to 10K. Please spread that around. We're trying to build our reach and get the ideas out there that we think are going to help society as a whole, especially in these horrible times that we're living in. So again, we appreciate you watching. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and enjoy your weekend. And we will see you here bright and early Monday morning. Take care. Bye-bye.
We about that, ayy. Bringing this song. We out here, yeah, spitting the facts, how it's supposed to be. Hair of the dog, we keeping it G. Whoa.